Let's talk about World War II. Both of my grandfathers fought in World War II. I have one grandfather who fought in the European front and in the Pacific front. He was in the European front and then he switched to the Pacific front once the once the once the European front was over. Um, and I have another grandfather. I think he just fought in the European front. Um, and one of my grandfathers fought in the Battle of the Bulge. He was actually surrounded by German units, and they were sieging the area. And then all of a sudden, Patton and his third Army infantry came and rescued my grandfather. So Patton saved my grandfather, George Patton. If you ever watch the movie Patton, you'll get a good overview of what Patton did. George Patton did. He was he was the greatest general of the past 100 years, probably. And Dwight Eisenhower also did a great job too in the European front. Dwight Eisenhower designed the D-Day invasion of France, so that the Allied powers could come into the uh, the Axis areas and control it. Um, the yeah, so I think my grandfather, one of my grandfathers, was going to the Pacific, and then he was about to fight in the Pacific, and then they dropped the nuclear bombs, or maybe he did fight in the Pacific, and then he was fighting a little bit in the Pacific, and then they dropped the nuclear bombs, and then he didn't have to fight anymore. So then prevented prevented uh prevented the nuclear bombs prevented Americans from having to invade Tokyo by land, invade Japan by land, which would have been very costly and deathly for for both the Americans and the Japanese. Probably more Japanese would have died if we did that than if we drop a nuclear bomb. So nuclear bomb was pretty good overall as far as in that situation. It was good to show people how powerful it was, so that we didn't have to continue the war. They just surrendered immediately once they saw how powerful it was. Hopefully, we never use a nuclear bomb like that again. Or hopefully no one ever uses a nuclear bomb like that again, because it's pretty powerful. But anyway, so both my grandfathers fought in World War II. Let me tell you a little more about my grandfathers. One of my grandfathers was a pharmacist, and he was a pharmacist his whole life. Then he died from skin cancer. Um, when he very shortly after he retired, he moved to Florida. He died of skin cancer. The other grandfather, I think he died from smoking cigarettes and cigars and stuff. I think he died from lung cancer um, in his 80s. Both grandfathers died in their 80s. Actually, no, no, no. My, my grandfather on my mom's side died in his 60s, and my grandfather on my father's dad died in his 80s. I think he was a little bit older than he was a little bit older than my but he was a little bit older than my other grandfather. Anyway, so those are the stories of my grandfathers. And so one of them died from lung cancer, one of them died from skin cancer. I have to be careful how much sun I get. I have to be careful not to smoke too much. I have to be careful not. I don't smoke at all, anyways. But I don't smoke at all. That's why I'm not gonna get lung cancer. Hopefully, but I could get lung cancer from just being in polluted areas or whatever. So I have to be careful about that. Um, anyways, so that's the story. The World War II and my grandfathers. Thank you for listening. Have a great day. Bye bye.